What is up, you beautiful gamers? Welcome back to role-playing games, to this merry corner in the internet, where we sometimes like to talk about video games, mostly focused on RPGs. And talking about RPGs, let's talk about the next entry of The Witcher in the franchise. There has been a lot of rumors and stuff talk about The Witcher, and there's like the launch disaster for Cyberpunk 2077 by Projekt Red. But nevertheless, I think that The Witcher is one of the most important games in gaming history, especially in RPGs history. And so yeah, let's talk about all of the official stuff that we know, confirmed official stuff, public statement by the up-top command peoples at Projekt Red. That being said, let's start talking about what we know about them and the public statements. There was an interview done to Kaczynski, president at Projekt Red. This interview was done by Bankier in 2018, where he said the first 3 Witchers were by definition a trilogy, so we simply could not name the next game The Witcher 4. Little parenthesis in here and huge emphasis on we simply could not name the next Witcher game The Witcher 4. Continuing on with the quote, "This does not mean, of course, that we will leave the world of The Witcher," said Kaczynski in an interview with Bankier. "The Witcher is one of the 2 franchises on which to build the future activities of the company," he adds. "Today, unfortunately, I cannot reveal anything more." This was stated in 2018. And then we have this little bit of article that says the latest gossip is direct from Projekt Red president Adam Kaczynski, who said in March 2020 to a group of journalists via Eurogamer Poland PSU that a relatively clear concept has already been stalked down for the next entry in the Witcher series, but that full production would kick off immediately after Cyberpunk 2077 hits the shelves. And that little full production starting after Cyberpunk 2077 hits the shelves, that's the one that causes a little bit of trouble onto my mind, because when we talk about the track record that Cyberpunk has placed for fixing Cyberpunk 2077 issues, there's still a whole bunch of stuff to do. This statement was prior to all of that, was prior to the launch. The fact is that he said that full production of the new Witcher entry would kick off after Cyberpunk 2077 hits the shelves. What are some things that are like the patches? There's still patches going in there, like launching for the game. There's still like the fixing issues for the performance on the last generation of consoles on Cyberpunk 2077. There's also the next generation version for the next generation consoles of the game. It's still going to be a thing that still hasn't happened yet. They also said that they were like working on a next generation version for The Witcher 3, so there's a whole bunch of stuff that they are still working on before actually moving on to the next projects. And there's also another project that's in the works that I actually highly doubt it's this new Witcher game. As far as the strategy of CD Projekt Capital Group for 2016 and 2021 is concerned, its plans to release the second AAA game by 2021 remain unchanged. We are currently focusing on the production and promotion of Cyberpunk 2077, so we do not want to comment on further projects. That smells like The Witcher 4 to me, and sometime before 2021. Now, what this person of the article seems to be forgetting is that this was a 2019 statement. This was a statement based on the track record that they were planning for the company's plans, pardon the redundancy, but that's not something like it's something like could have potentially changed by now due to the launch of Cyberpunk 2077. So there's that. I highly doubt that that game is this new AAA quality Witcher game, and I highly doubt as well it's going to be launching in this new year, in this 2021, because of Cyberpunk 2077 is still being worked on. The game was delayed a bunch of times. This statement was made before the delays. Let's remember that officially Cyberpunk was planned to be released on April of 2020, and then it got delayed until the end of the year. So there's that, and there's these patches that they're working. Let's remember that CD Projekt Red got hacked quite a while ago. So there's a whole bunch of stuff happening in here that could hinder all of these track plans that they had for the company. And then moving on from that, let's talk a little bit about the relationship that Andrzej Sapkowski, the writer of the Witcher novels, holds with Cyberpunk, pardon me for that, with CD Projekt Red. There was a legal dispute in here because Andrzej Sapkowski was demanding a little bit more monies, a little bit more cashes, more greenies, more monedas from CD Projekt Red due to the success that they had with The Witcher 3. Essentially, to make this thing brief for you guys, if you haven't heard anything or news about these things, is that this legal dispute that they had is when the first Witcher was going to be developed, CD Projekt approached Mr. Sapkowski and said, "Hey dude, would you like to collaborate with us in developing this new game RPG based on your mythos and universe and lore?" And he said, "Well, you can have the intellectual properties of the thing, but I'm not going to work in it. Just give me the money. How much are you going to give me?" They gave him a hefty amount of money, but it's not compared to the royalties that he could have perceived if he actually decided to work on them, because those two options were made to him. He said you can work with us, or we can give you some money and then you let us work with your intellectual properties. He chose the latter. And there was a legal stuff. He was demanding 16 million euros or dollars. Pardon me for not remembering that, but this was a hefty amount of money, and CD Projekt Red was not willing to bend the knee upon those demands. At the end of the day, with some talks and some legal turbulences here and there, they finally came to an agreement that reads as it follows. Given the contractual non-disclosure provisions applicable to both parties, as well as the company's legitimate interest in protecting its trade secrets, details of the agreement will not be disclosed. Nevertheless, the agreement satisfies and fully clarifies the requirements and expectations of both parties in light of previously concluded agreements, and establishes a framework for future cooperation between the parties. The agreement confers new rights upon the company and reaffirms its existing title to The Witcher intellectual property in developing video games, graphic novels, board games, and merchandise. So I guess that based on the success that CD Projekt has nowadays, they have little stain on the company thanks to Cyberpunk 2077. But I wouldn't completely disregard the idea of Sapkowski actually working with them in this new game as a consultant, or maybe actually being there on top of the writing and stuff like that. It's an idea that I like to hold dear because Sapkowski's work, dude, it's such an amazing novels. The world of The Witcher is la creme stuff. But talking about that, the scope of the game, let's talk about the scope of this new game that's going to be developed, because it's inherently going to be developed. It's pretty much confirmed. We're just having this conversation and discussion about the things that we know about it. But we also have the Witcher games out there that don't actually follow the timeline or the protagonism of Geralt of Rivia. We have Gwent and Thronebreaker. So those are games that they worked on. So to expect a fully open world AAA quality of game based on the world mythos universe for The Witcher is not completely impossible, but it's not something we should have to take for granted, because if we develop video games, series, war games, they have the intellectual properties to make all of that happen. That don't necessarily means that it's going to be a huge game, at least not in the near future. There's a common consensus and people in the internet talking about a 2024 release date for this new AAA quality scope video game for The Witcher based on the track record that CD Projekt has. While Cyberpunk was announced in 2012, active development did not start until 2016 and then it got released on 2020. That means that there's a gap of 4 years of development of the game before it actually got to be in the market. And so people believe that thanks to, like, in light of all of that information, we might actually get to see this new AAA big huge ass of a game, Witcher game, in 2024. But do have in mind this little thing is, there's a game, AAA quality game, stated publicly, officially by the company that's going to be released in 2021. That statement was made on 2019 before all the disaster for Cyberpunk happened. So while I doubt that that game is that new The Witcher game, that game that we do not know what that game is, pardon for being so redundant, but we do not know what that game is. And if that's not The Witcher, I don't think that it's going to be launching in this year, because in this year they're quite full on work with the patches and performance issues and next generation versions for The Witcher, which stated publicly by developers is still going to happen. So there's a whole bunch of stuff that they need to work on before moving on to other projects. They did say that they were going to start active development for the new Witcher game after Cyberpunk hits the shelves. I don't think that's my personal opinion. I don't think that's going to be like that's the case anymore. They have to focus on this new unannounced game that we do not know what that game is. It's said to be a AAA game. I highly doubt that's a Witcher game. I highly doubt that we are going to get that game in this year, and if we get it, it's going to be in 2022. And if that's 2022 game is not the Witcher game, that means that the new AAA game for The Witcher that we are all clamoring and waiting for would still like be quite a whole bunch of years off. Bad news, sad news. I always hate to deliver those, but it is what it is. Do let me know, guys, in the comments below what do you think about all of this stuff. I would love to, very much love to hear your opinions on all of this stuff. When do you think that this game is going to be released? Do you think that this publicly stated game release on that was aimed to be released in 2021 is a Witcher game? And tell me why. That being said, I'll see you beautiful, goddamn beautiful, sexy ass of gamers. In the next one, stay safe, stay awesome, stay beautiful. I'll see you later.